Hey there. Okay, so this is Seth Meshko. I'm a 3D character artist, and it's going to be this little walkthrough on this hybrid HIK FK system that I've created, how to use it, and then also how to bake from into it and export it and stuff. So here we're just going to start off. I'm just going to open up the character that has the rigging on it. Okay, and you can see this is a pretty standard HIK rig, right? You can see that there's a character definition in it. There's controls. Okay, so that's pretty self-explanatory. But then what you're also going to see in here are a bunch of controllers. Okay, so each one of these controllers is an FK offset control that has one for each joint. Okay, so there's your joints, and let's see, I'll just go to wireframe mode and then actually turn off the joints again. Okay, and then here is that that one for the elbow. Okay, so like I say, each joint has its own FK control that can be used to do offsets, right? Let's go ahead and bring in an animation. So file, I'm going to just reference in something here. Gosh, maybe I should show a little bit more. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead just for the heck of it, just so that this is all in one video that you can walk straight through. Sorry, a little departure here. I'm gonna make sure that I show the initial bake of the animation to the imported animation. Okay, so here I am. I'm just going to open up. In here, I've got animations, and we're just going to reference in this. Okay, so this was animation that was provided. It has had no tweaks to it or anything. It's just direct Mocap data. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at it. Okay, so here's what we've got. We've got this, skeleton moving around, doing its thing, and you'll see that there's just skeleton in here. Okay, there's no. Is there a definition? There isn't even a definition here. So we'll just go ahead and kill that. Oh, there is a definition in here. All right, well, that makes things a little easier. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to assume that, yeah, like this was all correctly assigned to this skeleton. Okay, I'm not going to go over basic HIK setup stuff. That's elsewhere out there. But anyway, this has a character definition. Okay, so that's beautiful. First thing what we can do is we can just set up a control system. Okay, so there are no controls on this character right now. We can go ahead and just click that button, and it's going to set up the controls. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so we've got our skeleton in there, and of course it doesn't have any animation on it, right? Because we haven't baked anything into it, right? So we have our character here. We're going to take it off of control rig and go back to none. All right, so that's going to remove the control rig, and then what we have here is that animation on the skeleton again, right? Okay, so all we have to do is bake that animation back to the control rig. Okay, so under our little Vitruvian man symbol here, we're gonna do bake to control rig. Okay, and we might as well open up these and just make sure that we've got some good stuff in here. So determine channels, shapes. That's good. I do like, I don't think keeping unbaked keys is necessary. Sparse curve bake, I've never had any good results with that, but disable implicit control and unroll rotation. Actually, disable implicit control can be off, but definitely unroll rotation should be on there. Okay, so now we're just going to bake. Okay, and that's just going to take a sec. It's going to do its little walk around and frame by frame, bake that out, key by key to the control rig. Okay, cool. So, it's just not responding. It's just taking its time there. Okay. So now you can see that animation is on the control rig, right? So we've got source control rig and the animations on the skeleton and the control rig, right? Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and save this off as I'm just going to name it the same thing. I'm just going to say baked to control rig. All right. There we go. Okay, so I'll say that. We can just close this. Okay, so back in here on this scene, we're going to go ahead and reference in that animation that we just created with the control rig. That's very important. Okay, so animations. There it is, Sheriff. Scene 101. Okay, good. Cool. Okay, so now you can see there's a control rig in there. It's moving around. It's doing its thing. All we have to do now is make a connection between our guy here and this rig. Okay, so we're going to go to our sheriff guy. Okay, and then we're going to set the source from control rig to that's weird. Character name text field is actually that's my fault. Is the name of that character. Okay, so anyway, we're going to do that. Okay. So what that was, just to clarify, is I'm taking the character that was in there, named character name text field. That was my very uncreative name for this character. My bad. And then I've assigned the source to the animation that we just imported. Okay, so now you can see some stuff going on here. This character is going to, let's move back a little bit. This character is going to follow along, you know, doing its thing. Good stuff. Okay. So now let's kind of get into the nitty-gritty of what this thing does and what it's all about. Okay, so we've got our character here walking around, and there are some issues. You can see right there, there's like a collision in the legs. Okay, these hands obviously have some, you know, really heavy distortion in them and stuff. So we need to clean that up. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and let's hide this business because we don't need to see that. All right. And now these FK controls are going to come in handy. Okay, so let me go ahead and is that, yeah, set up. Good. So I can just select that right through the skin there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make some adjustments here. Okay. Bring this guy in a bit. That guy's probably good. Bring this guy in a bit. Okay. Cool. So so we've got that, and then I'm not going to do the whole animation. Like these can be keyframed. You can go through. You could keyframe all of them and move your adjustments around, and even make animations more interesting or what have you if you like. Obviously, it's going to work with animation layers and stuff like that if that's in your workflow. But this is just to kind of show down and dirty what this thing does. Let's go ahead and let's just see if we can fix this. Let's see. Hold on. How that looks to be the thing. And maybe that looks to be the thing that's wrong. And perhaps this... back up here. Whoops. Sorry. I don't know. Maybe something like that. Let's just see. Okay. Oh, let's turn off those joints, eh? Oh, they are off. All right. Okay, cool. So, at any rate, you can see that those tweaks are persistent. They're correcting the animations. Let's move that shoulder out just a hair so that the hand doesn't collide with the body as it's moving around. All right, so you get the idea. Like I said, I'm not going to do this whole animation, but all of those offsets are available to tweak the mocap data to adjust it to the proportions of your character. Okay, so just as a brief explanation about how this thing works, in here you're going to find this target root. Okay, this is a skeletal hierarchy that is directly driven by the HIK system. Okay, so this is the joint system that has the definition on it and is driven by the controls. Okay, beneath that is another joint system that is allowing for these offset controls. Okay, so all of the stuff that you do to this, okay, is going to move that around. That system in turn drives the skin skeleton, right, that the clothes and face are bound to, right, that the character is bound to. Okay, and that's gonna be up in whatever hierarchy was established. Okay, so in here this is the skin skeleton. Okay, and then you can see that there's a bunch of parent constraints and stuff in there. Okay, so what I'm about to show you is how you can extract that data, okay, onto a skeleton, all right, and then import it back onto the control rig for further tweaking. Okay, so now we're going to go over how to bake this information out onto the skeleton, right? So again, the skin weight skeleton is going to be the final product of all of your tweaks, right? Like all of your little, offsets that you've made, all of that stuff is going to be fully expressed here on this skeleton, all right? So what has to be done is all of these skeleton, all these joints have to be baked out, and you can just actually select through all of this. You can just select all of these joints here all the way down to here. Okay, it doesn't matter if you select the constraints too, it's fine. All right, so just as long as you have each of those joints selected, you can go key and then bake animation. Okay, I'll just go ahead and pause this while it's doing that. Okay, so that bake's done. And you can see if we, select any one of the joints, we're going to get, solid bar across the bottom, indicating that there's a keyframe on every frame. Okay, key on every frame here in the graph editor. All right, so we know this thing's been baked out correctly. Okay, now we can just isolate this skeleton at this point. Okay, I've dragged it out of its hierarchy, and it's ready to go. Okay, so we're just going to actually export this as an FBX. Okay, export selection. Okay, we're going to go to workspace, scenes, and then we'll just save it into our animations here, okay, and then make sure that animation is clicked on. All right, and then everything else should probably be pretty much the same. We just have the skeleton itself selected, so that all that mesh stuff doesn't matter. It's not going to come out. All we care about is the skeleton, and that looks pretty good. Okay, cool. So we'll just call this or RIFF? Sheriff, yeah, there we go. Sheriff skin animation export. Skinned skeleton animation export. Okay, export that out. Cool. Okay, so now I've started with a fresh scene of Maya. We're going to go ahead and import that animation. Okay, so in here, animation, baked skin skeleton animation. Okay. All right. So again, that's the skeleton we just saved out that has the animation on it, right? And that's it. Okay, so it should be totally clean. Other than that, let's get rid of that namespace. Just oops, sorry, Shift N. We're gonna get rid of that namespace just for the hell of it, just because I don't want to look at it. Okay, so clean skeleton, everything's baked out. We're good to go. Okay, so back here where we have a T-pose, we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring up our character definition. Okay, so this character has a definition. I'm just verifying that yes, we do have that offset of the bones correct, right? So this is the skeleton that we did our tweaks to, our offsets to. Okay. So what we can now do is just simply set up a control rig. Okay, so what's this one? This one's nothing. Let's get rid of it. Okay, I don't know where that extra character came from. Okay, so character 1, and you know what? Let's rename this character. Rename that character. We're gonna say Sheriff. I don't know. What do we want to say that this is? This is going to be the baked animation. That's fine. Okay. Just something to like let us know what's going on there. All right. So got our little dude. He's running around. He's doing his thing. All we have to do is go ahead and create a control rig, and that control rig is now going to be on there. We scrub the timeline. We're going to see no animation updates. Okay. So what we have to do now is switch our source from the control rig to none again. Okay, and now we're gonna have our skeleton running around doing his thing again, right? So from here we bake to control rig, All right, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do that, and I'll pause it while it's doing that because nobody needs to watch this. All right, so that's baked. All right, so it's baked to the control rig now, right? Control rig's running around, it's doing its thing, everything's great. All right, so let's go ahead now and save this. Let's save scene as, I already did this one, so we'll just do baked IK controls. Let's call it that, okay? It's the same file. Yep, I want to do that, that's fine. All right, so at this stage, we have our animation that has the mocap data driving it with the offsets that we have baked into it. And that was, baked onto the skin skeleton. The skin skeleton was extracted. Then that animation was converted into control animation, right? HIK control animation, right? And now we want to bring that in and we want to put it on our character that we are going to render with, right? So let's go ahead and open up our scene for our character. All right, so this is it. The sheriff is the thing. It's this dense model that has all sorts of hair and stuff in the scene. So it's not a real-time character, right? You can't animate it. And like the whole goal of this project was, of course, to fix the animation such that we could animate a character in real time and then bring that animation in, and it would this character would follow that animation perfectly, right? So just to start off, this thing is rigged, okay? There's no reason for it to have a rig because all of its animation is going to be derived from the mocap data that we're going to bring in, right? Mocap hybrid data that we're going to bring in, okay? So just to start off with a cleaner slate, we've got this thing that all of that stuff seems to be structured underneath this control group. And I'm going to assume that it all works. Yeah, okay, so we've got some functionality there. What is going on with this? So those are the controls, right? Where are the joints? Joint group. Let's get those joints up and see what they're doing. Okay, they're controlled by orient constraints. Okay, so it would appear that whoever rigged this rigged it by just setting up these curves and then setting up orient constraints to follow the curves. So very, very simplistic rig, but that's great because we can get rid of it real easy. We're just going to delete that. Bye! All right, cool. So now it should be that once those controls are gone, so are all of the constraints. Beauty. Okay, so this... Just clicking through this, we're looking over here to see if there's, any color coding in any of the channels, and we're not seeing any of that, right? So that's good. All right, we're looking at a clean skeleton. All right, that's great. Okay, now we have a character definition in this scene, and it's complete, so that's cool. And it is the skinned skeleton. Okay, so that's great. Now, we want to set up controls. We want to set up an HIK control rig on this guy. and get him to follow the animation that we're going to import. So we'll just do that. We're going to click on Create Control Rig. It's going to go ahead and do that. And then we're going to test that, make sure that it works. Beep. It does. That's great. Okay, so let's put that back to where it was. And now we're going to go ahead and bring the animation in. All right, so let's rename this not character 1, but let's go ahead and rename it something that makes sense, like Sheriff Render. There, that's fine. So Sheriff Render character is the one that that's our target rig, right? Or I'm sorry, that's our target rig. And then the other thing is going to be our source. Whew, sorry. I know this is complex. It's certainly complex for me. Okay, so let's go ahead and create reference. All right. So bringing in our reference, we want to bring in our animation. All right. So this was it, baked HIK controls. That's what we've created, right? And again, that is the baked off of the skinned skeleton from the hybrid rig, right? And then that was converted into HIK control animation. Okay, so let's go ahead and reference that in, and I'm going to see what my kiddos want. Okay, sorry about that interruption. There was a toy in here that really desperately needed to be acquired. All right, so here we have our animation in here. It runs around, it does its thing. Okay, so animation baked to the control rig that has been derived from the hybrid rig, so it has the offsets in it. All right, and we can test that by just like coming in here and looking at that hand. That hand has like linear stuff. You can see that this other hand that we didn't really mess with is still has that widespread sort of situation going on. So yeah, now we just need to get this animation onto the render character, right? So that should be just a matter of taking our Sheriff Render character and switching that to baked HIK rig, right? Which is, the thing that we just brought in. Okay, so I'm seeing that these joints are not aligned, all right? And that's going to be problematic. Let's go ahead and just click somewhere in the timeline and just see what happens when we're animating. So those joints aren't lining up. Okay, that's fine. We can fix that. There's a few different approaches, but I'm gonna bet it's a problem with the definition. So there's two different ways that you could fix this. One is that you could parent constrain all of the joints themselves of this skinned character directly to the reg of the imported character. Okay, so that's one way that we could deal with that. I have a script that does that, but I have a sense that this offset is what is actually causing it. And so when this is getting pretty esoteric, but when you create a definition on a character, a skeletal definition, it kind of bakes in some information into the character that can kind of create some of these offsets and stuff. So we're going to look into that. Let's do this. Let's get our reference data out of here just so that we're not looking at it. Reference editor, memory caching is running low. Wow, really? Okay. Boop. So let's get that out of there. Now we're just looking at our character here. Where are his controls? There they are. Okay. So, you know what? We're going to remove those controls. Let's just go ahead and delete control rig. And I'm just going to look at these joints. So we have these joints have values in rotate, okay? And the character definition was probably set up with those rotations in it. Okay, so that can cause offsets. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to kill that definition, okay? And then we're going to, since the other one is zeroed out and this one has the rotations, we're going to go ahead and zero this thing out. Okay, so we'll just go from head to toe. And if this person who set up this skeleton did it right, we should be able to just zero all of those and it'll stay in a T-pose. It'll actually get into a better T-pose. Yay. All right, good show. Cool. So now, why don't we see if our reference lines up with this. Okay, so reference editor, let's just bring this back in for a second, see if the joints align. Let's see, we need to get that thing's reference. Where are you? There you are. All right. That looks good. Okay, so those are aligned well now. All right, so I'm going to bet that this is going to solve our problem. Okay, so let's, just for the sake of cleanliness, let's just unreference that again, just so that we can see everything nice and clearly. All right, so now all we have to do is set up our character definition again and then try bringing the animation back in again. All right, so let's go ahead and create a character definition. Okay, and then just kind of go through here. I'm going to pause this. You don't need to watch me reassign this character definition. Okay, cool. So I've set up this character definition again. It's complete. It's got some issues, but that doesn't really matter. It's fine. It'll still complete. So what we do now is let's go ahead and rename our character. We will name this again SHE. Sheriff. Render. And then let's go ahead and make that control rig. Cool. All right, there we go. So we've got our control rig on here. Joints have been realigned. Character definition has been re-established with 0 rotations. So I'm gonna bet that solved our problem. All right, so let's go ahead and test that out. We'll bring up our reference editor. We're gonna bring our baked HIK rig back in. We see that now they align well. All right, that's good. Let's go ahead and take our sheriff render and use our baked HIK control info to drive it. All right, and then we'll just click somewhere in the timeline and we'll go check it out. Looks pretty good. We got a bunch of noise to get rid of. Good. Okay, that does seem to have solved our problem. All right, great. Cool. So that's it. We're done. Hopefully that cleared things up. I know it's a complex process. You know, this is always been my experience with mocap, is that it's so hairy. I'm not even entirely convinced that it's better in any way to just keyframed animation, but yeah, I mean, like, whatever, like, there have to be solutions for dealing with it, and this has been one. All right, so thank you, appreciate it, and let me know if you have any questions about this process, and I hope it all works out. Thanks.